Hi, my name's Dan, and this video is one in a series of videos that I'm doing on designing enemies in video game design, and it's part of a larger suite of videos on game design. And in this one, I'm going to talk about a particular approach to creating a set of enemies, which is to use a taxonomy. So I guess the first question to answer is, what is a taxonomy? What do I mean? Well, it's a way of breaking down any set of information by categorizing things uh, and then grouping those categories into higher level categories. And it's a hierarchy of categorization. One of the standard examples to use when explaining taxonomies is the taxonomy of life on Earth. And here's the um, how the taxonomy works. So right at the bottom here, we've got species Homo sapiens, so that's people, and they come under various categories as you get higher and higher. And as you go higher, then there are more things included: genus, family, order, class, yeah, etc. Um, excuse me. However, I'm going to give a different example with some explanation here, which is a diagram that I found off the internet, credit in the credits at the end. And this categorizes drinks. And obviously it doesn't attempt to do absolutely all drinks, and water's not in here. But first of all, it splits drinks into alcoholic drinks and non-alcoholic drinks. And then within each category, it splits them further down. So uh, let's look in for the alcoholic beverages. It's split into beer, wines, aperitifs, hard liquors, although it's actually written liqueurs, and digestives. And I might not agree with this categorization, but that's not important right now. The, the thing that's important is the way that this has been structured. Then within the hard liquors, there's spirits and whiskies. And within whiskies, there's a whole lot of things in purple there. And then the bottom one is again split. So the Scotch is split into malted and grain. So you can see that, excuse me, this is a way of having categories within categories within categories. And as I kind of am implying, this is a way that you could approach the design of what enemies you might have in a game. So let's have a look at an example of doing this. It's a bit of a crazy example. I like crazy examples. So creating a taxonomy like this is kind of part and parcel. It's tied up with your world building. And in my head, as often is the case, I've got fantasy game setting going on, except this is a slightly strange one, as you'll see. Um, so I've started with my highest level categories. I've got humanoid, animal, undead, and spirit going on. I'm going to start breaking them down and then adding in some some enemies and some enemy types in here. So I've broken down humanoid into human, elf, dwarf, goblin, and ogre. I don't know why I read those last two in the wrong order. And then human is broken down again into I've got KGB, Nazi, and terrorist. This is where the world starts to become quite strange. And then I'm breaking down the KGB into secret enforcer and enforcer, and then I'm breaking down the Nazis as well, and the terrorists. I've got quite a lot of categories in there. So it didn't take me very long to think of those using this as a way of thinking about things. I'm going to effectively fold those up. And so I'm going to look at elves now. And rather than doing it stage by stage, I'm just going to do it all at once. I've got two broad categories of elves, the dark elves and light elves. I've got tribes within that, and I could have had more tribes. I'm a bit limited here in my screen space. So if I was creating a large RPG fantasy world, then I might have many more than this. And I've actually got some commonality going on here. So all three of these tribes have got archers and guards, and then they differ with the Night Shadows are mages, The leaf mold have druids. The glimmerwings have illusionists. Um, okay, so you can see how you could use that to break down and create a list, an outline list of the enemies that you want, and it's certainly a good way to have a starting point. And you can see how quite quickly I've gone from the broad ideas down to the details of the enemies, and how quickly I end up with quite a long list of potential enemies. Um, this thing that says common ideas on the screen, I wanted to call it matrix or something like that, but I thought that might be even more misleading. It's thinking back to that thought that with the elves that I had archers and guards for all of them. It's possible to do this in all sorts of places, to actually use a common idea and then implement it within different categories, so that um, you have another kind of way of categorizing almost that goes in my head. It goes in at the side rather than from the top, but that's because I'm thinking about this visually. So I'm going to do an example. So here I've got a partial taxonomy. I've got animals. I've got within that bears and wolves, and I've got grizzly bears, pandas, timber wolves, jungle wolves, and urban wolves. And I'm going to add a young one for each of those. So that immediately gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential enemies there that I can throw in. I'm going to throw in another one, but I'm not actually going to put it in all of the different categories. I'm going to have an infected grizzly, an infected panda, an infected timber wolf. And now in my head, I'm wondering what on earth an infected panda is going to look like. It might be some kind of zombie panda. That can be fun. So just because you're doing this, using this approach of common ideas, doesn't mean that you have to uh, obviously justify having one of each in every category that you've got. You shouldn't regard your taxonomy as being something that you need to adhere to in a strict sense. It's there as a tool to help you think about your design and to help you quickly approach this concept of what enemies are you going to have within your game. So using taxonomies, there's some advantages to having your enemies categorized like this, which is that you've actually got categories for your enemies at various different levels. And you can use that within your game design and within the programming of the game. So the examples that I'm going to give here are instructions that you might be giving to a player as part of a quest system, maybe. And it's harking back to that set that I did earlier on, where I've got the Glimmerwing elves, and so kill 2 Glimmerwing archers is very specific. But you could have an instruction: kill 5 Glimmerwing elves, so of any type. Uh, so you can use these higher level categories for instructions, not only to the player, but also for elements within the game, as we'll see. And going up the hierarchy, kill 12 light elves, and then kill 40 elves. So any elf will do. Um, and you can use this in other ways. So, for example, we've got this instruction here: effective against undead might be a weapon. And so undead is probably one of your higher level categories inside your taxonomy. And each enemy that you face should have the information about what groups it belongs to at the different levels. So, so you can use these instructions that it can be applied across. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is um, there is a slight inherent danger within this approach of using taxonomies, and that is that you get too constricted by the taxonomy itself, and don't start to think outside that in terms of unique and imaginative enemies. Um, there are some games where if you looked at them and tried to create a taxonomy of the enemies, then you'd excuse me, you'd struggle because they're all so different from each other. And so don't let this thing, which is, to my mind, a really handy tool for design, constrict you so much that you think that you've got a great idea for an enemy, but it doesn't fit in your taxonomy that you can't have it. It's just meant as being a starting point. So we've done a bit of talking about taxonomies, and that's it from me for now.